In this video, you're going to learn about 5 things that you can do to get started with Claude Cowork. If you're brand new and you need 0 technical skills, it's very, very simple to do. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 different things that you can learn within the first 10 minutes you can do, which are really, really helpful, actually. By the way, if you don't know who I am, my name is Lewis. I make simple YouTube videos on content creation. I specifically aim towards Claude as my tool of choice. However, I have done some other videos in the past if you want to check those out with some different large language models, things like that. If you are a beginner or someone who wants to adapt Claude into their online presence, then this video is for you. So let's get started. So the reality with something like Claude is that a lot of people just open up a chatbot as a chatbot because that's all they think it is. And they just mess around with it for a little bit and then they don't return to it. They don't use it anymore. So these 5 different things that I'm going to show you that you could actually use with Claude Cowork are really useful, and it'll basically show you that Claude is just way more than just a chatbot. So that's why I mentioned this video is aimed more at beginners, but anybody can watch it if you have an interest in this type of stuff. And like right here, you can see it reads your file. You can save directly to folders, and it can also act as an assistant among a whole bunch of other things. So these are the 5 things that I'm going to talk about. The first is going to be connecting a folder. Then I'm going to show you summarization, how you summarize a document. Then how I can generate ideas, which I'm sure you may or may not have seen before. Then also how you can write with it and save. And you can also come back to different things you save and you can re-edit, do what you want with them. And then I'll also show you how it can research. So let's get started. So real quick before I get started on the first thing, this is basically what it is. You're going to select a folder. Claude can read all the files that are in that folder, and then you can just, basically do what you need to do. You can ask it to, what's in this folder. You can ask it to edit documents, things like that. I'll show you real quick. So I'm just going to start off with like a brand new task here. And what I'll do is I'll go into, let's see, Claude content, choose a folder here. So what I'll do is I'll give it access to this one, click allow. And now I can read everything that's in there. And what I'll do is I'll just ask it a question. I can just say, what is in this folder? And once you send that off, it'll take a second here, and it'll start reading every single document that's inside this folder. So I'll give it a second here, and you'll get an idea. All right, so you can see right here, your folder contains, and it's got PDFs at the root level. Just different little things. There's some HTML sites I've created. And this is like from one of the other videos where I created like an HTML site just to show basically what like creating like a photo site would look like, something simple. So the reason this is useful is because it saves a lot of time. So you have it open up the folder, goes through, you can see everything. And it's basically like kind of like an organizational tool. So you can see exactly what you have. So you don't have to double click and search for stuff. So it's a really, really good time saver. And this is probably one of the main ones that I use a lot of when I'm first opening Claude Cowork. So the next one I'm going to talk about is going to be summarizing documents. And as you see on the screen there, you can do tons of different things with the summarization method. You could just ask it to summarize transcripts, reports, PDFs, notes and drafts. If you have like some notes and some drafts, it'll basically just bring it into some like a document that you can actually read instead of it being a whole bunch of unorganized stuff. It'll organize it for you and put all the key takeaways into the document itself. So this is just another really, really useful thing that you can do with Claude Cowork, and I'll show you here in a second. All right, so what I'll do is I'll go back into Claude Cowork, and I'll pick this here, this stable diffusion document. That's an older document it's like a prompt guide for if you're prompting stable diffusion, which is an image generator. So what I'll do is I'll just type it in. And by the way, you can also talk into it. You can just hold this down and tell it what you want to do. It's faster for some people, but just for purposes of this demonstration, I'll go ahead and just type it in. I'll say, please summarize this document. And what I'll do is I'll just paste in the name of the document here, and I'll just send it off. So as we're waiting here, we'll get to see what it's doing. And by the way, you'll see it thinking different, all the stuff that it goes through. Sometimes it'll do a ton. If you click on it, it'll show you like all this different stuff that it's thinking, which is usually a huge amount if you actually go read through it. I'm glad they came up with these different skills also, like the caveman skill to save all the time in tokens. All right, so here's what it came up with. Here's a summary of this document. And as you can see here, creating photorealistic images with AI, what the chapter covers. So it basically just broke down all the different chapters here. And by the way, you can use this and you can go even further and say, you can turn it into a different piece of content. Like you can say, please turn this into slides, or please break this down even further with like the 3 takeaways instead of just a little summarization. So as you can see, what it did is another thing that's really useful when you want to summarize something. Instead of having to read through an entire document, it'll save you a ton of time. All right, so next what I want to talk about is how you can generate some content ideas with Claude Cowork. It'll depend on what you're trying to do, like how many different type of posts you want and what platform. So what I'll do is I'll just take like a version of this right here that you see about the LinkedIn content expert, and I'm going to put in 2 or 3 YouTube video ideas and like maybe 3 LinkedIn post ideas based on right here, someone who helps solopreneurs with time management. So what I'll do is I'll post it in and I will send it off. And I'll be back in a sec so you can see what it came up with. So here's what it came back with. Came back with LinkedIn posts, which look pretty good. Right here, there's 3 of them. And it also came back with 2 YouTube video ideas, and this is based on the coach that helps people save time. So, you could do things with, repurpose them in your own voice. You could do things like, actually, see what I could do here. I'll go ahead and tell Claude to basically make this post more concise, and I'll just see what it comes up with, but you kind of get the idea. Claude, make post number 1, the relatable hook, a little bit more concise. And then I'll go ahead and send that off. See what it comes up with here as it's working. Usually takes a bit because it has to read back through it. And you can see right here, it made it even more concise. So just for comparison, that's the first post right here. It's really, really, it's good. Obviously not that bad. And here is the other one. So again, you can do whatever you want with these posts. You can edit them. You can repurpose them in your own voice, like I was telling you, which I've actually talked about that in an earlier video that I'll link in the description, so you can kind of get an idea. I used a prompt there to repurpose in my own voice, so it doesn't sound as bland or as like AI produced, basically, because a lot of people talk about stuff like, I'm sure you've seen it online, a lot of people talk about stuff like AI slop and everything. So what I'll do now is I'll go into the 4th thing that you can do with Claude Cowork to save some time, and I will show you that here in a second. So the 4th thing I'm going to talk about is basically writing a post and then saving it, and then you can tweak it to your liking, and you can choose any kind of platform, LinkedIn, whichever one you're choosing. So what I'm going to do is I copied one from the earlier one of the posts from LinkedIn, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to create like a full, more robust post, and then I can save it and edit it later. So what I'll do is I'll just talk to it and tell it, so I don't have to spend all the time writing. Please create a more robust version of the post I'm about to paste into Claude here and save it for me so I can create my own version of it later on right here. And then I'll go ahead and I'll paste it in, and then I'll go ahead and send it off. And by the way, I'm using Claude Sonnet. They just released a newer version of Opus the other day, so you could also use that, but it does use more tokens. All right, so what it did here was it created a markdown file. This MD is a markdown file, and you can repurpose this into an HTML file or a PDF file, whatever you want, basically. It even gives you the folder here, so you could go into it and you could open it in a coding app, or you can open it, you save it to Google Drive, you could show it in the folder. And it even tells you right here what it did to it. It enhanced it. The original was tight and punchy. I kept that energy but added more substance, and you could read the rest here if you want to pause it. And as you can see on the right, it actually did do that. It created this huge post that you could post to wherever. LinkedIn, Instagram. Again, you could repurpose it into whatever you want. So that's another quick thing that you can do to save some time with Claude Cowork. And now I'm going to show you the final one. So the final thing I'm going to show you is the research, the way you could just take a topic and research it through Claude Cowork. It's got the web search built in, basically. It can turn into content if you want it. There's tons of different things you could do. You could research industry trends, a topic that you want to know about. You can create a report out of it. You could turn it into an HTML site. You can turn it into slides or a PDF file, what have you. So I'll go ahead and show you that right now. What I'll do is I'll go in and I will create a whole different task. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk into it so I could just save some time that way. All right, so what I'll probably just choose something that's relevant, right now, as in 2026. Claude, go ahead and research the following topic for me and give me a full detailed report on this. Go ahead and research what are the 3 most relevant trends at the time as of this recording as far as Claude and Claude Code. What are the 3 top things that you can learn right now about Claude and Claude Code? And I'll go ahead and send this off. Actually, I'll put a period after it. Go ahead and send this off and see what it gives me. And I will come back as soon as it's finished. I actually just noticed that it was supposed to say Claude Code right here and it didn't, but it's still new. So, and as you can see here, it actually did give the report, and it says the most 3 relevant trends in Claude and Claude Code. May 2026 is when this is being recorded. And it shows you the agentic workflows. It also shows you right here Claude Code Routines was launched in April. The second thing is the second trend, Opus 4.8, which I mentioned has just been released recently. And the third is Claude Code becoming a full development platform. So you could turn any 3 of these into whatever content you want. You can create HTML, PDF, whatever you want with it, and you can repurpose it into all kinds of different content. So just for the sake of this, I'll show you that real quick. I'll go ahead and, by the way, here are the sources that it uses, so you can click on any of these, and this will be a link to where it gathered the information. It obviously did the web search. So what I'll do is I'll just grab right here trend number 1, and I'll tell it to repurpose that. Claude, go ahead and repurpose trend number 1 into a small HTML formatted site talking about the trend that you actually mentioned in the previous response that you gave. I'll go ahead and send that off. I'll be back shortly to see what it created. So as you can see here, it just finished. It says right here, HTML site is ready. It even gives you what it did, the dark theme layout, hero section, so which is pretty cool. I'll click on it here so you can get kind of an idea of what it is. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll open it in the browser, and it looks pretty good. Again, nothing's clickable. I mean, I click on it, nothing happens, but you can change that if you want. But it's just an idea so you could see like what's going on with these HTML sites that it creates. So it gives you this whole. I basically took that and put it into a site like I wanted. It's pretty cool the way it breaks down the info, and it gives you like a really good looking site. I may or may not use this in the future, but I liked the fact that you can actually change and edit, in Claude. It makes it a lot simpler, and it'll really go far in saving you time, depending again on what you want to use this for. So just to recap, these are the 5 things that I talked about in this video. I talked about how you connect your folder to Claude Cowork. Then I talked about how you can summarize a document. After that, I talked about how you can generate the different content ideas and then repurpose them. Then I showed you how you can write a full post based on another post, a more robust post basically, and the ways you can also repurpose that as well. And then I showed you about how you can use Claude for research. So I'm curious in the comment section if someone comments what would you actually use this for and which one you want to try first. So hopefully this video gave you some idea of some of the things that you can do with Claude Cowork, some of the easiest things you can do when you're first starting out with it. Hopefully this gave you a better understanding of it as well. So just want to give a quick thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.